From the very moment of its creation, the National Guard of Ukraine has stood at the defense of Ukrainian statehood from Russian military aggression. The momentous years of 2014 and 15 were the hardest and most tragic ones for the NGU. At that time, it had a sizable amount of volunteers amongst its ranks. Yet, in a relatively short period of time, it had overcome great adversity. This set the NGU out on a difficult path of reform on its way towards NATO standardization. The Guardsmen managed to hold the dire situation in eastern Ukraine under their control. In that time, the units of the NGU extended a helpful hand to their brothers in arms from the armed forces, giving them enough time to mobilize personnel and resources to build up combat capabilities. From the very first days in this time of conflict, the people of Ukraine started to support its defenders shoulder to shoulder, protecting Ukraine's sovereignty against the Russian invasion. The mindset of ordinary Ukrainians was changing. Despite its direct role in defending Ukraine in the war in eastern Ukraine, the NGU was steadily increasing its overall combat capabilities. The structure of the National Guard of Ukraine has been brought in line with the command and control structure of the military forms that are in similar function as the NATO member and EU member states. The experience of the first days of the anti-terrorism operations forced NGU to change our command and control structure and heavy weapon systems. The operational units of the NGU were augmented with tank, artillery, engineering, anti-tank, and anti-aircraft subunits, each having the necessary hardware to bring the fight to the enemy. Special purpose units of the National Guard of Ukraine received sophisticated sniper systems, modern armored vehicles, protective gear, and communication equipment. We cannot underestimate the international assistance given to the National Guard of Ukraine, as well as the experience of foreign partners regarding the forming and establishment of more advantageous military practices. In cooperation with the armed forces and military organizations with law enforcement functions, not only from Europe, but beyond, the National Guard of Ukraine has steadily been growing. Standards of their activities were implemented into the core structure of the National Guard of Ukraine. The National Guard of Ukraine is truly the people's army. Among its ranks are true patriots, professionals of their trade, people that took part in Maidan, the popular uprising that ousted former pro-Russian and deeply corrupted President Yanukovych from power, and veterans of combat actions in eastern Ukraine. Professionalism, dedication to the cause, and honor to the people of Ukraine are among the cornerstones that are taken into consideration during the recruitment process to join the National Guard of Ukraine. The units of the National Guard of Ukraine take part actively in joint international exercises and training that enable them to adopt the foremost practices to share experiences in the areas of common interest and mission achievement. As a result of steady and consistent reforms, in 2017, the National Guard of Ukraine received full membership status in the International Association of Gendarmeries and Police Forces with Military Structures, FIEP. This provided a powerful incentive for the continuation of reforms in the NGU. The intense exchange of experience with international partners has greatly contributed to high-quality changes in the activities of the National Guard. In particular, the system-based approach to personnel training has been implemented, separating personnel training into individual and collective ones, preparing the way for the creation of an instructor and an NCO school. In 2017, the Multinational Interagency Multifunctional Center for Unit Training was created in the Kyiv region in Stare. This center serves as a principal training ground for the National Guard personnel. Created in 2017, the International Interagency Multifunctional Training Center, located in Stare Kyiv region, provided mission-specific collective training to the National Guard of Ukraine. The training center is divided into sub-centers, namely Operational Unit Training, Public Order Training, Special Operations Training, and a sub-center for psychological rehabilitation. 122 positions of unit sergeants, including 1,614 positions of company and battalion-wide sergeants, have been introduced. Manning of the positions of the Sergeant Major of the National Guard, Territorial Defense Command's military units have been based on the recommendations of the chain of command. Excellent and outspoken service records are processed through a tough, competitive examination for consideration for these positions. Throughout 2017 and 18, the pay chart for NCOs of the National Guard of Ukraine has been significantly increased. For the last 5 years since the moment of its creation, the NGU has significantly stepped up its combat capabilities. Consistent support from international partners has played a significant role in this regard. In 2018, with the framework of the USAI Ukrainian Security Assistance Initiative. The National Guard of Ukraine, as a part of its international assistance of the Ukrainian government, received modern digital radio stations, satellite communications devices, power generations, unmanned aerial vehicles, multiple integrated laser engagement systems, optic sights, night vision devices, military tents, and modular sleep systems. In the framework of cooperation with the Embassy of the Republic of Latvia to Ukraine, the NGO, jointly with the representatives of the Latvian diplomatic mission, secured the delivery of humanitarian assistance from the Latvian people to the vulnerable populations of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The newest surveillance, sighting, and fire control equipment was purchased to perform military tasks during wartime. The motor pool of the National Guard of Ukraine has been reinforced with different personnel transportation vehicles that have greatly improved service conditions for the personnel of the NGO outside permitted bases. As for the armament and armory modifications, over the last 5 years, the National Guard of Ukraine has received an influx of modern weapon systems and armored vehicles. In order to improve the healthcare of the servicemen of the National Guard of Ukraine, 95 ambulances, 3 ambulance buses, mobile X-ray units, squadrons for both helicopters and unmanned aerial vehicles have been created. In the framework of cooperation with the government of France, the NGO received the first H-225 Super Puma helicopter. A new uniform type has been developed. Now the main uniform for personnel of public order protection units, protection of diplomatic missions and consulates of foreign countries is blue. For other military units, the uniform is green. The establishment of better social welfare systems, decent salaries, and improved service conditions of the NGO is one of the key focuses going forward for a greater NGO. Over the course of the last couple of years, the procurement of housing for guardsmen has greatly increased. Up to 1,475 former ATO and JFO servicemen of the National Guard of Ukraine have undergone medical rehabilitation in Ukraine. Of that number, 131 have gone abroad to receive care. Additional payments to servicemen deployed to the war zone has increased from 1,200 hryvnias per month in 2016 to 4,500 per month in 2019. The Ukrainian government assigns a wide range of demanding missions to the National Guard of Ukraine. In times of hybrid war, its members defend Ukraine's territorial integrity and provide security across the whole country. The units of the NGO provide border protection measures on the border between Russia and Ukraine. Around 5,000 guardsmen continue to perform daily combat missions in the JFO, countering enemy subversions activities and perform their duties on deliberate and hasty checkpoints along the whole line of contact in the JFO. On top of that, servicemen of the NGO perform daily law enforcement operations in the government-controlled areas of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. These missions encompass the protection of the local authorities and daily maintenance of public order, peace and tranquility, as well as border protection during public events. What makes the National Guard of Ukraine unique is the fact that it can perform service and combat missions during peacetime, during crisis, and during times of war. The Guardsmen execute assigned missions independently and in coordination with other security and defense organizations in Ukraine. Having permanent bases in each and every region of Ukraine, the NGO is able to rapidly stand up to protect the rights and freedoms of Ukrainians. The creation of rapid response units and the acquisition of logistics capabilities has enabled the National Guard of Ukraine to transport its units on a very short notice to areas of operation all across Ukraine. The National Guard of Ukraine is an open and transparent national military organization. According to the results of the sociological research that are held annually by the Razumikov Center, the National Guard of Ukraine enjoys one of the highest rates of public trust among government institutions. These statistics show that 50% of the polled citizens were in favor of the National Guard of Ukraine. Servicemen of the NGO execute daily missions across the whole territory of Ukraine, ensuring peace, protection, and security for Ukrainian citizens. In conclusion, the National Guard of Ukraine is not only composed of manpower, armored vehicles, and weapons. The Guard is the people of Ukraine, professional, dedicated, and willing at all times to defend Ukraine and its people.